All right, so then once again, coaches, professionals, therapists, reflective practitioners, I would like to warmly welcome you to this session. Today, we are discussing how to ace ICF credentialing exam. And it's a very, very special session today because we have the best of the experts. The reason I say that is, as you are aware, there's a panel of coaches who are joining us today who have recently completed the ICF credentialing exam successfully and obtained the credential. So with that, I believe we would be able to, with their insights, I believe we will be able to create massive value. Feel free to send in your questions. And also, if you have any insights for our coaches, feel free to do that. So as we begin this officially, I would like to talk a little bit about how we get here, how we are here. Now, first of all, I would like to acknowledge all of you. Uh, as you are aware, as we are all aware, coaching is not a regulated practice in around the world in many countries. The good news is it is becoming regulated in many countries, but still it's a long way to go. Even then, you could just have a piece of paper, or you don't have to do anything. You can just advertise yourself as a coach and do whatever you want. And we also know there's a lot of people who do that. But look at you. You are here. You are spending your valuable time here because you are committed to professional development and, most importantly, undertaking this magnificent profession as a professional coach, creating development impact in your clients and in your communities, the organizations you work with, and also world at large responsibly. And you intend to demonstrate credibility, excellence, and that's why you are under the umbrella of ICF. So it's such a privilege to have all of you with deeply intentional individuals, professionals, leaders like you. So with that, I would like to also invite you to recognize at Ignite Global, we would like to position ourselves as a coaching organization that aspire to become the new generation. What do I mean by that? As you know that I have quite a bit of experience in this world, over about 19 years now. So when I first um, approached ICF credentialing process, it was very, very different. And you may have heard the word CKA, Coach Knowledge Assessment. And that was what I took at the very, very beginning of this journey. I remember when I was preparing for the CKA for the very first time, I looked for many resources and there were very, very limited resources. So I thought, I wish that there was something that could be valuable. So as soon as I initiated Ignite Global, I created, with the help of my team, we created the CKA, and it became very popular, as you may be aware. And then ICF recently changed the CKA to credentialing exam. This story you know very well. So this was an interesting time. The moment the credentialing exam came to be and ICF retired CKA, there were many interesting views about this exam. If you may have heard some really good feedback, at the same time, people also a little bit concerned, complained, or even confused about this exam a little bit. I believe the main reason being it's because we have both to choose the the best answer and the worst answer. I think this is what confuses most of the people. And interestingly, this was an interesting time for us at Ignite Global. The reason being, like I said, trying to become the new generation of coaching. So I had this urge to offer the credentialing exam as soon as possible. And for however my luck at the time, Lux was just about to apply for her PCC. The very same month that she was applying for the PCC credential, the CKA changed to credentialing exam. So that was very lucky for us to remain a new generation coaching company. So of course you would imagine as Lux approached the exam, she was a little bit anxious because it was very new. In fact, ICF didn't even necessarily fully change the sample questions they had in the website to promote the new exam. So Lux was operating a little bit blindly, and there were many coaches who went through this. We heard uh, some concerns of exam being so-called complex or difficult. So Lux went into the exam, so I was also really holding on to my chair to find out how was the exam. So as soon as she came out, this was her first comment. I don't know whether Lux remembers. She said, "It's not as difficult as people say it is." So that's a good news for all of you coaches. What do I mean by that? If you are delivering real world coaching and if you are well aware of the ICF core competencies and ethical guidelines, it is not a difficult exam, right? So with that, I would like to introduce Lux. So Lux is positioning Ignite Global as a new generation coaching company. As you are aware, most of you are aware, Lux created world's first ever ICF accredited child adolescent development and parenting coaching program. And she has been the leadership behind Ignite ICF Credentialing Practice Exam. So I remember immediately after Lux went through the exam, we spent 2 nights, like literally stayed up and went through all the questions, revised them, created new questions, and also big thanks to Ignite team because they all were up 2 nights, quite literally. And then we got the test out there. As I say, we want to be new generation and we want to introduce, pioneer, redefine coaching world. And I believe that's a kind of commitment that is required from an organization like Ignite Global. So with that, we have done many iterations to ICF Credentialing Practice Exam with Ignite Global. And as we are speaking right now, I believe you are aware, ICF is making some minor changes to the exam as well, which will be also addressed today. So I believe now I have introduced Lux quite well and many of you know her. And then I would like to also introduce our coaches. Lux, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everyone. So glad to be here as your moderator. I am so looking forward to creating a value-packed discussion with our very own Ignite graduates who have successfully aced the ICF credentialing exam recently. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. As time permits, we will address them. Thank you, Fernando. Over to you.
Thank you. All right, so I think it's best our panelists introduce themselves. So I'm going to call upon you coaches. Feel free to come forward and do a very brief introduction at this point of time. And of course, as we continue this conversation, our audience will get to know you today. So I would like to introduce Ross Harvey, who is a professional certified coach. Ross, over to you.
Oh, hi, coaches. Nice to be here with you all today. So as Fernando said, I'm a PCC. I just certified 2 months ago. So I did the exam at the start of July. I've been coaching for about 5 years. And in my line of work, I work in the music industry, coaching artists with performance issues. So that's what I do in my day-to-day. But really looking forward to getting down to this today and sharing some insights. Hopefully, you can walk away with some serious value from this session. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ross. One of the reasons why we particularly picked up the panelists here today are also because they are from many different specialities, different countries, different nationalities, different backgrounds. So you get an experience or get to understand the broader view of how to approach the ICF credentialing exam. So with process introduction, I think it becomes evident that our coaches are truly diverse and operate in unique specializations. With that, I would like to introduce Louisa, who is a PCC. Louisa, over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. I'm Louisa. I'm currently visiting Ireland, but have recently relocated to Spain. I'm a PCC coach. I focus on life and relationship coaching. I've been doing this for about 5 years. It's something I'm very passionate about, focusing on the core of people's relationships and how they impact them as individuals, and also other areas of their lives. I truly do believe that when focusing on relationships, you can really flourish as a person and you can enhance other areas of life as well. And so I'm really looking forward to delving into the exam today and my experience of it. I did the exam in February and got the accreditation, the PCC credential at the beginning of March.
Brilliant. Thank you for being with us, Louisa. Next, I would like to introduce Catherine, who is an associate certified coach. Catherine, over to you.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Catherine. I am from Nairobi, Kenya, and it's really exciting to see all of you and to be here with all of you. I did my exam in November last year, and I'm currently working towards just actually upgrading it to PCC since I am level 2 certified, through Ignite Global. So really looking forward to the conversation. It was an interesting journey preparing and just looking to sharing the tips of the preparation and the whole process. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us, Catherine. All the best with your PCC credential, and I hope this would create value for yourself as well as if you did not take the exam, within November, you will have to do the credentialing exam again, right? So I hope it will be valuable for all of us. Thank you, Catherine. And again, I would like to introduce Arwan, who is a professional certified coach. And I believe Arwan is the most recent candidate of this exam. Over to you, Arwan.
Thank you, Fernando. Lovely to see some of you and most of you as well that I've not met before. My name is Arwan and I'm based in Sydney. I've completed my level 1 and level 2 certification with Ignite Global, and it's been 4 years. I can't believe the time has flown by so quickly. I have been coaching and especially found this real passion to work with groups and individuals in particular. Getting into team coaching space now with the company that I work for. I'm a customer success manager for a software company, and I recently got my PCC, I think in late July. So I'm 1.5 months old into PCC, and very excited to be here and looking forward to a great session with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, coaches, for being here. Very exciting. And as you're also aware, you are able to obtain, those who are joining us online right now are able to gain 1.5 core competency related CCEs. So how are we going to issue this? 10 minutes before this session ends, I'm going to come back online and then share with you a link. In this link, we invite you to accurately type your name as of how you would like it to be in the certificate, and include your email address and submit, so that you will receive the CCE certification within the next 14 days via email. So please wait for the 14 days and see. In case if you did not receive within these 14 days, after the 14 days, feel free to reach out to our team and we will look into it. All right. And if you are watching this recording at a later stage, we regret that the CCE is only available to the coaches who are joining this session live. All right. With that, coaches, I wish all of you, the panelists and our moderator, all the best in creating a conversation that is going to be enriching all of us. And then wish you all the best, our participants. And most importantly, wish you all the best in successfully acquiring your credential, and most crucially, creating impact and value in your clients' life and your organizations. Over to you, Lux.
Thank you, Fernando. Okay, coaches, so without further ado, let's open the floor to our panelists. All right, panelists, so my first question is, please tell us your overall experience during the exam, including the format. Ross, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I'm just coming off mute now. So let me think. The overall experience. So when I prepared for the exam on the day itself, I did it not in an exam center, but I did it online. And when you do it online, you've got someone kind of watching you to make sure that you're not cheating, you're not looking at any paper or any notes, anything like that. I found that for me, the best idea was to do it early in the morning. To do it, like I chose to do it at 10 o'clock because I found that as it's such a long exam, if I leave it too late in the day, then I find it hard to concentrate on the questions. So I logged on at about 9:30 to make sure everything was tested, no other windows on my screen, everything shut down, and everything was ready for the exam. And then I'm not trying to scare anyone when I share this, but I had a little bit of a obstacle in the way that you have to provide your ID to confirm that it's you to do this exam online. So I was like, this is about 15 minutes before the exam was due to start. I had to take a photo of my passport. Everything was fine up until now, but then it wouldn't allow me to take a picture for some reason. So the clock is ticking. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to focus on the exam, but I've got this issue with the technology in front of me. It wouldn't allow me to upload my passport. So I was a little bit stressed about that. So I tried to use my laptop instead of my phone. And then when I did that, it wouldn't allow me on my laptop either. I tried another handset and it wouldn't happen with that either. So what I did, I had to get in touch with technical support on the actual morning itself. And I ended up starting my exam at 20 past the hour. Obviously, as you can imagine, this was quite stressful because I was just ready to do the exam and I had this unexpected challenge in the way. However, they allowed me to do the full time. They didn't cut the time short or anything like that. And I was able to get it done in the end. So if anyone goes through technical issues on the day, I would just say, please try not to worry. Just stay calm because you will make it happen. Eventually you'll get down and you'll be able to do the test. So yeah, like I say, not trying to scare anyone with that, but that was my experience. So I think it's worth sharing. And yeah, with regard to the questions, I found the exam interface was quite easy to use. If you weren't sure of an answer when you were looking at the questions, you could always mark it to come back to at the end and then have a look at it before you submit your final answer, which I thought that was good. And in fact, I think the very first question, I needed to do that on. I was like, oh no, this is how we're going to start. I couldn't even focus on the first question, I think because of my kind of stressful preparation and the technical issues. But in the end, I was able to come back to that question and answer it. So that came all right. So the environment was cool. There was the invigilator has to check that in your immediate environment, there's no clutter, there's nothing in the drawers. So you have to show them the camera angle, show them the whole room to demonstrate that you're not able to cheat in any way, which was fine. And yeah, so while I was doing the questions, I was just trying to maintain calmness. You know, that's the thing. Sometimes you read a question and you find it might seem like it's not really going in, right? It's going in one eye and out the other. And it's like, oh, how can I really focus on this? But just don't worry. You can always come back to them in the end. So at the end of the exam, I remember walking away and I was like, I don't know if I've passed. I don't know if I've failed it because some of the answers are so similar to each other. You just walk away, you give it your best shot, but you just don't know. Luckily, we got the results quite soon. It was like within a matter of minutes, they were able to give you the results. So that made me quite at ease when I was able to walk away with a pass at the end. So yeah, that's my experience, the overall exam experience in a nutshell, really.
Thank you, Rose, for sharing, and especially your situation with the uploading your picture. I heard that this has happened to some other coaches as well. So of course, not to scare anyone, but it's always better to be prepared. So that's very valuable. How about you, Louisa?
So for myself, I had some similar experiences to Ross. The main difference at the beginning to start with was I did my exam in person. And so what I did, I also had the exam very early in the morning. I found that to be very beneficial. I was able to wake up, do my morning routine, and fully focus on going into the exam without thinking of other activities that I'd have to do beforehand. So that was definitely a move that I felt was powerful in succeeding in the exam. Now, then I got to the exam. I made sure I was there 30 minutes beforehand. I had to do a simple registration process where I had to have 2 IDs. They requested 2 IDs. On the day, they actually just asked for 1. And the registration process was very straightforward. I just had to fill in a form and sign it at the end. Then I could start the exam. In the exam center, it was a small room with about 10 computers. It was myself and 2 other people taking exams. They were not coaches, they were taking different exams, but we were there with the same supervisor. And so it was a very calm environment. I found that being in person helped me be very focused on the day. So I really liked that for myself. It really helped me to step into the exam, not have any distractions around me. So I really thought that was, for me personally, very beneficial to be in person. The invigilator was there to ask any questions. He did come around once or twice and ask if we're okay or if we need anything. In terms of the exam itself, it was very user-friendly. I also had a very similar experience in terms of it was very easy to navigate, very easy to flag questions as well. I felt that the timing of it was also okay. Going back to questions at the end was something I had time to do. There was the break in between where I got to go out, have a drink, go to the bathroom, take a moment to have a refresher. And then at the end, I went back into the registration office and they printed the results straight away, which was great to have that ease of mind, because I was in a similar position where I had no idea whether I passed or how I did.
Thank you, Louisa, for sharing your experience, and especially for those who are taking the exam in person. How about you, Catherine?
So I think the experience is very similar. So for me, I think I went through just listening to what's the preparation if I'm doing it online, like what Ross was saying, they need to just make sure that you're about your environment. I mean, when I listened to all that, I made a choice and decided, let me just go to a center. It's easier. And I also don't have to worry about whether I have a power fluctuation or anything like that. So I went to a center to take the exam. Got there, 20 minutes early, because I took it very early in the morning, 8:30 a.m. my time. So, very early in the morning, got there. They were ready for me, filled out a form. They, of course, asked for your ID to verify that you are the person who's actually showing up for the exam. You have to keep away all the things you come with, your bag, your phone, everything. They give you a safe space to keep them, because then you're not allowed to go with any of those things into the exam room itself. So, once that was done and I had registered, so they had a small room. We were actually just two people in that room, and the other person was taking a different exam. So went in, very, very, very friendly, at least for the center I went, they were friendly, just get you set up, get you ready, find out if there's anything you need. And that was it. Started the exam. Halfway through, you get the 10-minute break. And then the exam prompts you, like it's time for a break. I did the 81 questions. So at, I think, the 41 questions, it prompts you, time for a break. So, take a break. I actually got out of the room, used the bathroom, come back. So very easy. And, I think it was a 10-minute, I don't remember whether it was a 5 or 10-minute break, but you don't even have to use up the whole time for the break. Once you're ready, then you just come in and continue with the exam. So finished my exam, and once you're done and you let them know that you're done, they actually just come, close it for you. No, actually halfway through, when you take the break, the lady actually, for me, it was a lady, she came, I think she locks it, because then when I wanted to start again, then she also had to come in and put in some sort of code to let me in again. At the end of the exam, once I let her know I was done, she generated the results very quickly. I mean, in exactly 2 minutes, I had the printed copy of my results. So this was a very friendly environment and easy. And for me, I felt that being in a center would not create the anxiety. I think, like what Ross says, if something goes wrong, I just felt maybe that would just make me anxious as I'm getting ready for an exam. So I preferred to go to a center, and it worked out quite well. And no hiccups at all. Everything flowed very, very smooth.
Thank you, Catherine, for sharing. And one of the questions we have from Claire, how you can choose the training center, given Louisa and Catherine both have taken the exam in a training center? That would be a good insight to address?
So there is, because you do the exam at a Pearson Center. So there's a list of centers that are provided for you when you register for the exam based on where you are. So for example, for me who is in Nairobi, Kenya, you're given a list of centers. So there's a number of centers in Nairobi. And for me, I just chose the one that I felt was most convenient for me. So you actually have a list where you can choose from.
Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. Thank you, Catherine. And also we have another question. How long was the exam? Let's hear from Arwan. How was your overall experience, and also how long was the exam?
Yes, yeah, my experience is very similar to Ross, because I also decided to take it online. And it's a 3 hours long exam. So I was somehow under the impression it was 4 hours, because apparently if English is not your first language, you are given an extra hour. So I was a bit confused with that 3 to 4 hours thing. So just to note that if English is not your first language, you can get 4 hours for the exam. But of course, mine was 3 hours, and very similar to Ross. I was quite nervous about doing online, but that was somehow my only option at that time, because all the Pearson centers were booked out. And I needed to get it done before a certain date. So I was running the, they sent you like a pre-testing of your system. So I was doing the test to prepare my laptop and make sure that it was working correctly, and making sure that the audios are working. They also give you guidance that you have to be plugged in to the power so that your laptop doesn't go off. And then also, if you have external monitor, they want to see that your HDMI is not connected to your laptop. And they also make sure that when they're reviewing your space, your walls are free of notes and stuff like that. So just to add to that point that Ross brought up, they do like a very thorough review. They take pictures with you there. I chose to do the exam at 11 o'clock in the morning. So I think morning is a great time. Because it really helps you, you can be a little bit more focused, like what everyone has shared here. But what happened in my case was, with the phone, you're supposed to keep the phone at an arm length. You're not supposed to wear your watches, so your electronic watch, you have to put all that aside. My phone was in the focus mode. And then because they say that if there is something, the person who is invigilating you could give you a call. So I was confused that if my phone is in focus mode, how could somebody call me? And because what happens with your laptop is once your Pearson app goes on, nothing else works. So you can't go back, I put the phone away and I realized, oh my God, I started the exam and I'm like, oh, did I turn the volume off on my phone? What if the phone ring? Would I be disqualified from the phone? So just a word here that if you take the exam online, keep those logistics in mind and have that sorted out before you start the exam. So as I started the exam, the content pretty much flew through, and like Ross and has shared as well, that you flag the question as we go. If you feel at some point after 1.5 hours, there was a 5 minutes break, it feels a little bit funny that you have someone watching you consistently. What I found very difficult personally is because I'm a person who has to speak out loud when I'm reading something so that I can hear myself. And one of the rules of taking the exam online is you can't actually speak. So whatever you do, you have to not move your lips and just try and read. And that made it extra harder for me in a way, because I had to reread something 2 times in my mind without actually using the sound to help accompany my understanding of a question. So that was a big thing. And then obviously after the break, it was 5 minutes, came back in when I literally realized that, okay, I have taken more than 1.5 hours of my time, and I have less than 1.5 hours left for the remaining questions, for the second half of the questions. So I felt that I had to really pace through that process during the second half. And towards the end, I was so stressed. Like, I feel like I made it. I had some time left, but I was so stressed out. Like, I don't know if I'm going to pass this or I'm not going to pass this. And to top all that, when you finish the exam with Pearson, the application just conks off and you're like, oh my God, what just happened? Did I lose my results? I thought I'm going to get my results right away. And the screen just went blank. Did I have to, like, it was just like, oh, 3 hours of my time. And then within a few minutes, of course, the email came that, you know, I passed. So it was a bit of a relief. So somehow it wasn't like a bit of an up and down. And then you somehow have to manage how you respond to your own nerves in that process. But it was overall very friendly and it went off pretty well.
Thank you, Arwan. I can imagine how that can be quite frightening, but I'm glad it worked out. So we have a question about the break, how long the break is. The previous exam before the 20th of August 2024, the break time was 5 minutes. However, as Fernando mentioned, ICF very recently made minor changes, and one of the changes is they went from 5 minutes break to 10 minutes break, because obviously answering questions that could be lengthy and complex, 5 minutes is not enough for you to refresh your mind. So they have extended it to be 10 minutes. And also coaches have in mind, previous exam CKA used to be an open book. As all of our panelists shared, it is quite strict. It is not an open book anymore. So please, as Arwan said, the moment the system opens, nothing works in the laptop, and also it takes away your mind. So have those things in mind. Now I would like to move to our next question. I see some questions coming. We will be answering them as relevant. Now that we are moving from the exam structure to more towards questions, another recent updates that ICF has made, before 20th of August, there were 81 questions that you had to answer within 3 hours. However, they have reduced the number of questions to be 78 questions. So whoever is taking the exam now, you will have 78 questions only. They are all scenario-based items, just like before, just the reduced number. So now that we are addressing the questions, how about if you could share with us, how did you approach the questions? One of the things that many coaches, I don't want to say complain, but they had difficulties with is that, first of all, the questions are scenario-based, which means you need to think like a coach in the moment, not a candidate of taking the exam. And also, questions can be lengthy, and this is one of the things that I found that was a bit challenging for me, because obviously I'm not a native speaker, so I had to read, and reading was the most difficult part, because the question was long and the answers were equally long. So how did you approach this, and what strategies help you comprehend them effectively? I know I'm asking 2 questions in the same at the same time, but it's okay. This is not a coaching session, so we can go ahead. Catherine, over to you.
Sorry. So I think in terms of the preparation, I mean, like you rightly say, they are scenario-based. It is, really needing to read, internalize, really understand what's being asked. And so I think that takes time. So for me, this is what I think helped, because you need to choose the best answer and the worst answer. The best answer is not very complicated to choose. The worst answer is where then you begin to think, which is the worst? Which is worse than the other, so that then you can get the worst. So I think that's where it gets tricky. But for me, this is what helped. I mean, I can honestly say one of the things that helped me a lot was the practice questions. So doing the practice questions before the exam was really helpful, because even some of the places where I was like, but that worst answer doesn't even make sense, because there are instances where I thought that. But as I read it, you're then able to see the logic. In some of the practice questions, you're actually able to link it to the competence and be able to just see that. So I think that helped. So I did, doing the exam, looking at the question, and where maybe I do the questions, because especially the unlock practice test. So you do the exam, you get the answers right away, and you're able to see what is right, what was wrong. being able to look at what did I not get correct and be able to then just reflect on, so why did I not get this correct? Some of that really helped. And I did that exam. I mean, I did it over and over because then every time I'd get wrong, I'd come back to just think about why was that question not correct. So for me, in terms of resources I used the Unlock practice test. There's another, they're called Solutions Academy. They also have a practice exam, which I also used. Then, of course, just reviewing the PCC markers over and over again and the ICF core competencies, because then sometimes as I looked at a question in terms of best answer, worst answer, just looking at, so what competency is this, and just trying to link that was really helpful. I honestly don't think that had I just read, read the competencies, the markers, just studied and not done the practice questions, I honestly think that it would have been a difficult exam to pass. I possibly wouldn't have passed, because doing the questions helps you then begin to think about, okay, so why was this the worst answer? Because if one was the best answer, it means there's three potential answers that may not be the best answers, but which is the worst? So doing the exam, thinking about those answers actually was very, very helpful. So that's how I prepared. And because Ignite gives you a 30-day window for the practice questions. So I had opportunity to do them, sit 2-3 days, do it again to just see, how did I do the next time? What are the questions that I'm still having a challenge with, and be able to see why am I having a challenge with those questions. So that was what I really used in my preparation.
Thank you, Catherine. How about you, Rose?
So yeah, as Catherine said, the preparation was key. So doing the practice exams again and again, so that you get the answers and you can find out where you need to improve. One thing that really helped me was a group of coaches that I was working with had the opportunity to jump on a webinar where they discussed how to prepare for this exam, and I was unable to join that. Right, so I felt like, okay, I need to find out what was the feedback from that. So one of my coaches on my group very kindly, Lucy, gave me her notes from that discussion, and I was looking through her notes, and one thing really stood out for me. But before I come on to that, what I did was read the question in the exam, and before reading the answers, just see what the best solution would be for myself before I even read the options. So use your common sense to think how you would handle this situation, then read the answers to see if it's in there. And then the golden nugget that I took from the notes of my fellow coach was that normally one of the answers is going to be the best answer and one is going to be the worst. And generally, the best answer is going to be the one that is more client-centered, and the worst answer is the one that is most coach-centered. So let me give you an example of a question. So the question might be, it will be more long-winded than this, but I'll condense it. You're coaching a client and they are actually a competitor of another client that you're coaching, right? So they're business competitors with each other. You know very personal information about one of these individuals. So what would be the right decision to do? Would you, so the best answer was something like, because there's a potential conflict of interest, let them know from the very beginning so that the client can then make a decision whether or not they want to work with you. So that's focusing on the client. And the worst answer was something like, take their money, get them to sign up, and then let them know after they've paid you. So that's you thinking about yourself as the coach. Let me get the money. All right, that's a kind of quite extreme example, but it's a good example of focusing more on the client, which is going to be the best answer, and focusing more on the coach, which will be the worst answer. So I applied that to many of my answers as I went through the exam, and I found that it really helped just to simplify things, because it can be easy to get sucked into the questions because they can be so long-winded and so detailed. that you'd end up ruminating and going over it again and again without really getting clarity. But just to bottom line it, if you can focus right, what is the most client-focused answer and what is the most coach-focused answer? And that would really help you to figure out what's the best and the worst choice you can make.
Thank you, Rose. That's a great insight because I've heard from many coaches that the answers can be quite ambiguous. So understanding how to differentiate the best and worst is absolutely crucial because it also saves time. So thank you, Rose. And how about you, Arwan?
It's very similar to both Catherine and Ross. Best answer usually stands out as well because you know, it's that's what I noticed. It's quite easy to spot in comparison to worst answers. And just something what Ross said about it being more client-centered. I've read it somewhere through my research as well, and I found that to be very useful. And if for the worst answer, in addition to it not being just coach focused, that if you get stuck, think about the ICF core competencies. I've actually had to internalize those 7 core competencies by reading them again, and again, just to truly understand every single word that makes up a competency. I thought that also was like, how do I break a tie? Like, okay, this is worse and this is also worse. It helped making that decision at the end. I think that was something that helped. And in terms of the ICF, the exam, the mock exam that I got from Ignite, the moment I got it, one of the first things I did was I actually just, without preparing, like thinking about an exam ahead, I just went with a clean slate and said, you know what, I'm just going to assess myself and I'm going to see where I stand right now. And I did the exam, and of course I failed. But you know, you go through the answers and try to question why, where is the conflict? What is it that you really need to think about? And then every few days I would redo it. And then each time I'll find myself getting better, but then I will still find like, okay, there's still something that doesn't sit right. And then when you go through the competency series, there's the whole document. I literally had to read through it a few times to make sense. And I created like little notes, like each long sentences had one nugget. Like it's like a long thing about integrity. It's actually integrity. It's a subset of like ethical practice. Under ethical practice, there's like sensitivity. So like just creating some of those little keywords corresponding to each competency really helped me kind of internalize that whole 7 key competencies that are out there. And I also found the YouTube video series very helpful. The one that ICF has posted, and it has like they talk through the changes that they made back in 2023, and I think that was very, very effective as well. So yeah, I think overall just a few tips here and there, lots of practice. And I think most importantly, when you step into that space, like it's like as if you're going for an 81 coaching session in a span of 3 hours. That's how you have to approach each question, is how I felt.
Thank you, Arwan. Before I come to Luisa, we have a question considering that you are the most recent. How long did it take to receive your credential from ICF after the exam? I know that we received the results immediately, but how long did it take to receive the credential from ICF?
I think it was within, like, I think I gave an exam on a Saturday, and then because it was probably off, and then I think the following week, Monday, Tuesday, I got like an email confirming that the credential has come through. So yeah, pretty straightforward. I think if you were to do an exam on a weekday, I would assume you would get it within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, great. Because I received my credential just in 2 days. So I guess it depends also the volume that they receive, but it doesn't take that long. It's, as you said, it's pretty straightforward. Right, Luisa, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Luck. So I would definitely resonate with everything the coaches have shared already in terms of my experience with the questions. What I would add is that, as the coaches shared already, there is going to be one obvious answer from the 4 possibilities that you have, or options. And so you might know which the best answer is straight away. Sometimes I also found for myself that I knew which the worst answer was, and that I was playing between two options for the best answer. So what usually happens is you have one that you know for sure is one of the answers, and then you might know that one is definitely not the answer. So it's a process of elimination. And so then you're left with two answers that you're playing with to pick for the best or worst. And what I found really helpful in that situation was to put myself in that scenario, to visualize myself as the coach, whether it's an online session or an in-person session, where I'm actually playing out in my head, saying that back to the client or acting on the option that was given. And I found that doing that gave me clarity for most questions, where I knew exactly then what to pick for my answer after playing it out in my head or visualizing the scenarios as if I was acting them out or saying that.
Thank you, Louisa, for sharing. We have a question about if we are allowed a blank paper on the table in the online exam. The shortest answer is no, you're not allowed to keep anything on the table. As all of our panelists mentioned, you need to if you're taking the online exam, you need to show around your table, your surroundings, and you're not allowed to keep anything. So make sure you don't have anything so that there are no unnecessary complications during the time. And also there is another question about is there any other changes in the exam format apart from the number of questions being reduced to 72? Yes, as I mentioned, the break time before it was 5 minutes, but now it's 10 minutes. And also one of the significant differences that ICF has made, I think, which is absolutely very valuable, is the feedback, because previously if you had to retake the exam, the feedback you receive was quite, it wasn't comprehensive. However, for those who need to retake the exam, the score reports will provide detailed feedback on performance across different exam domains, offering valuable guidance for further study for preparation. So I think that's a significant difference that's going to enhance the exam experience. Right, we also have a question about the time. That's exactly our next question lining up. So how did you manage time for each question during the exam, given the complexity? Most coaches say that the questions are complex and lengthy, and it's difficult to manage the time, have to do all the reading because some of us are not native speakers. So Arwan, let's begin with you. How did you manage your time?
So I went in mentally telling myself I'm not going to give more than 2.5 minutes a question. But then what happened is the moment you are reading the question, you start putting yourself under a lot of pressure. So I said, okay, you know what? I've got 1.5 hours to get through 41 questions. Let's go at a pace which feels most comfortable. So I started off like not really stressing about time. And I said, let's just go with the flow. And then obviously keeping an eye on time. And you'll find that some questions are less than a minute. It won't even take you 30 seconds to pick out. Like, there are some short questions. There are very few short questions in there, which will help you make up for the time that you will spend on the lengthier question. But where I find myself going beyond, like, okay, this is more than a couple of minutes now, I would just put a flag out there and I'd say I'll come back to it before I submit, because you have to submit the 41 questions before you go for a break. When I came back on the second half, of course, you now feel a little bit more pressure because, if you finish 1 hour, 40 minutes, then you only have 1 hour, 20 minutes left to finish the rest of the exam. So I found that I had to pace myself a little bit. So I would just say, pace out an equal amount of time so that, you can address your 41 questions in 1.5. I mean, now that they are 78, so you get 10 minutes break in between, and you get a little bit more time back for review. So yeah, that's how I did it.
Thank you, Arwan. Catherine, what about you?
I think for me it was the same. I just approached it with just the thought in my mind that I have 90 minutes for 41 questions. which means that if I dwell too much on a question where I'm going past 3 minutes on a question, then I'm really, eating up on my time. So I tried to do that. Yes, there are questions that were pretty fast that you could go through, but where then I found maybe thinking through a question, trying to figure out the answer was proving very difficult, because then maybe I couldn't quite figure out which is the worst answer or which is the best answer. I found it easier to just proceed and then come back to it. But then remembering that within your 90 minutes, if you then, again, lose time, it means that at the very end, you won't have time back. So I really tried very hard to make sure I wasn't going beyond the 2 to 2.5 minutes with each question, because I think for me, time was something that I really put in my mind, because I think when you realize the time is running out and you haven't quite finished the question, I think there's a level of panic that would come. So I actually tried to do that. But one of the things that had also helped me before that, because the practice exam that I was doing with Ignite also has equal number of questions, I would time myself. When I was preparing for the exam, then I also timed myself, because then that helped me make sure that in the 90 minutes, because the Ignite exam also gives you the break. In the 90 minutes, I have done my 41 questions. So it helped me in terms of just practicing how to time myself, so that then within the time allocated, I've been able to finish all the questions. But trying to make sure that you don't overstay on a question, especially where you're not quite sure and you're just trying to overthink it, is one of the things that's important to think about, so that then you don't lose too much time and find you don't have enough time to cover the questions.
Thank you, Catherine. As you were speaking, we also receive another question. Are the questions the same or different at frequent intervals? So maybe Louisa and Rose can also kind of answer that question as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would like to add, first of all, when it comes to the time management of the exam, I found that the practice test really helped me to move from thinking about how long should I spend on each question to feeling, or getting the feeling of I'm spending roughly a good amount of time on this question. So I did the practice test a good few times before the actual test, which was very beneficial in getting myself into the hang of managing my time well. In the actual exam, then I knew that at the halfway mark, I wouldn't be able to go back to the first set of questions. So what I found beneficial for me was, because I had the 90 minutes to answer the 40 or 41 questions to begin with, I then used a benchmark for myself, and I knew that by 45 minutes, I should have 20 to 21 questions answered. And that was very helpful for me to have as a benchmark, but not to check every couple of questions or to try think of exactly how much time I needed to spend. That I found that very useful, but the timing definitely I didn't find to be a problem with me doing the practice test beforehand. I also found that I had about 2 minutes to spare after each round to go back on any flagged questions that I had, but it was only about 2 minutes that I had at the end.
Thank you, Louisa. Ross, how about you?
Yeah, so I think I used up most of the time. When I got to the end of the exam, there wasn't a lot of time left over, but I'm kind of quite meticulous as well with the timing. So I made sure that I did 20 questions in about 45 minutes on average, just so I could go at that speed as we move through. Yes, there's a timer on the screen. You can see exactly how long you've got left as you go through. Flagging questions that you're not sure about is definitely a great way to go, just so that you don't spend too much time getting bogged down on one question. Sometimes if you see it later on, you go back to that question and it's a lot clearer. The answer's a lot clearer. So don't feel that you have to answer them straight away. I had to do that once or twice. I didn't flag several questions throughout the whole exam, but yeah, once or twice. And when it came to the end of the exam, I didn't allow myself any time to kind of go over and review my answers. The reason being there's 81 very long questions, and you wouldn't have time to really read the whole question in detail and then review every single answer. So I'd say when you are making your choice, make sure that it really is your final answer, because there's not a lot of time to go back and review every single question when you get to the end of the exam.
Thank you, Rose. We have another question. I think since we are addressing time, is there a timer on the screen where you can see how much time is left for the section or to complete the exam?
Yeah, there's a timer, so you can keep a track of your progress against the clock. Yes, you can.
Okay, great. Also, any of you, please feel free to answer this question. Is there a sequence? Do the questions come in a sections? Example, foundation, co-creation, the relationship, like previously in CKA?
No, they don't come in sections. So it's you have to suss out what's being tested in any particular question that's not highlighted in any way.
Okay, Louisa, thank you. Okay. And so now that we are discussing the questions and answers and also managing time, which is absolutely crucial, so let's also discuss our preparation strategies. What preparation strategies and resources do you believe had the greatest impact on your success in acing the credentialing exam successfully? Louisa? Oh, Catherine,
Yes.
please. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Lak. I think for me, and I think I think a lot of the others have talked about it. I think the practice exam was very useful. Why I think the practice exam was very useful is a lot of the questions then that you encountered in the exam itself, even though not exact, there were some similarities. So that helped, because then it means you had possibly had a thought process around a similar question. So that really helped. I think also doing the practice exam helped in that I'd been able to time myself and see that, how am I using my time? So that was very useful. So for me, the practice exam, and I think I said that earlier, the practice exam was, I think, my biggest resource. I did that exam over and over again. And I think, like Louisa, I think it is Orwan who said, the first time I did it, I failed. I think the first 2 times I did it, I failed. So had to keep coming back to it to see, what is it that I'm not doing correct? So by the time now I was consistently passing as I did the practice exam, that's when now I felt now I am ready to actually book the exam and actually register for the exam. So that was very helpful. There were videos that were available online that, you're just able to watch and hear other people's experiences. And of course, the core competencies, just going back to just see, so what competence is being assessed here? Because then it helps you get the thought around what are they really asking and how do I need to respond? So I found those were really useful. The core competencies, just looking at the PCC markers over and over again to just then see, even as they ask a question, what could be getting assessed? Because while it wasn't a recording that they were listening to, it still gave you some insight to just be able to connect it to the competence and then see what they could be asking. I think for me, those were the resources that I found most useful.
Great strategy, Catherine. Thank you for sharing. Louisa?
Yes, I also found that the practice exam was core to my studying. Outside of that, I would say creating a study list and marking time off on my calendar, deciding how many hours per week I want to spend and making sure that I created space and time for that was also really important. I did the practice test many times, and outside of that, I made sure that I read the core competencies, the PCC markers, the code of ethics. I also watched the YouTube videos on that as well, which I found very useful to do when I was doing other things. I would have the videos in the background. which was helpful for me as well in terms of study for that.
Thank you, Louisa. Arwan?
Yes, so very similar to Louisa and Catherine. Practice question was like my study Bible for the whole entire preparation process, and I found myself referring to the competency, the core competency document from ICF, and I was literally reading through each sentence, trying to make sense that I understand. And like I said earlier, just taking out like a keyword to capture the essence of what that competency is really referring to, just registering some of those keywords in your mind. So when you are assessing a scenario during the exam, it pops up, you can easily kind of navigate, make it go this way or that way. I also found the YouTube videos by ICF very helpful. They do talk a lot about the changes that has been there from the previous, they introduced when they made the changes. I also found there's another in ICF website itself where they talk a lot about ethics, and there's an accompanying notes that's available there. So I found that reading that was also very helpful in understanding the 2026 points that makes up the code of conduct and the ethical practice part of ICF. That was very helpful as well. And yeah, I think overall, just having going back to my PCMC notes was very helpful too. So the level 1, level 2, just bringing back some of those examples that kind of correspond to the competency was quite helpful. The notes that were there. So yeah, I think pretty much that was my go-to plan.
Thank you, Arwan. Ross, we would also like to hear from you.
Okay, so I spent some time during I gave myself 1 month to really prepare for this exam. And when you get the mock exam available for you as well, that you have access to that for 30 days, when you can do it as many times as you like through the Ignite platform. So in between doing the practice exam, I would refer to the core competencies and the code of ethics just to refresh that as I was going on. So yeah, when I found out I had 30 days access to this mock exam, I was like, okay, great. I've got plenty of time. I can do it loads. I do several times. Sat down to do it the first day, then realized that it was a 4-hour long exam, and I was up very late that evening doing the exam. Basically, I got very tired, failed the first time. So I thought, okay, I need to put a plan into place how I'm going to study. So what I chose to do was do the exam one day, then have a day off. Then the next day, read half of the answers. That took me about 2 hours or so. Then have another day off. On the next day, do the other half of the answers. Then have another day off. And on the 6th day, take the test again. So I did that, repeated it 3 or 4 times. And every time the score was going up until I got to the stage where I was scoring high on the mock exam. Then I knew I was ready to take it. And yeah, with life, with work, with family, 4 or 5 mock exams is probably enough to get you ready, because it does take a lot of your time to practice, and it's very, time consuming, takes your energy as well. So yeah, but you'll know you're ready once you've done it a few times. You'll know it's time, right? Even if you've got access to the mock exam for another few days, you might as well just book your exam in, because you're already ready. You know when you're prepared. It gets to the point when you've done enough practice and it's just time to dive in. So yeah, that's it. It's very, very powerful resource, I'd say, the mock exam on the Ignite platform.
Thank you, Ross. We also have a question from Claire. Do you think that during the test, a vocabulary for an unknown word could be possible to use?
Hi, Claire, do you mean it like a dictionary? If you need to check a word that you're not sure of, in that case, I'm sure it would be a no, because they don't allow you to have anything nearby for you to refer to.
Thank you, Ross. We had a question earlier about the previous CKA just before the credentialing exam, and then the differences between CKA and the current credentialing exam. What are the differences if anyone has participated in CKA before and you have taken the credentialing exam as well? Please feel free to answer to Fran, so that would be valuable to her.
I think I can jump in
Right.
dialogue very quickly. I
Yes,
can take
Fernando.
that
Yeah,
one.
please.
All
Thank you.
right, so I haven't really done the ICF new credentialing exam because I have done my MCC before the new credentialing exam was introduced. But of course, as you would imagine, I have read through the current Ignite credentialing mock exam about 100 times with the leadership that looks provided. So I have done it myself many times to make sure that all the answers are in full congruence with ICF competencies, practicalities, and it meets the expectation of an educational experience from an education pedagogy perspective, so that we make sure those who go through our practice exam meet the standard, that it prepares you very well, like what the coaches who are sharing their experiences. So if I am to answer the question of Fran, I would say the CKA was a very easy exam. There was definitely no worst answer to choose. It was quite straightforward. And I think at the time, even if you look at the terminology, coach, knowledge, assessment, it was quite basic, frankly speaking. And it was an open book test. Although it was still scenario based, I would say it's very easy. Like if you have looked at the previous questions that were on ICF website, which was quite straightforward to understand the answers. And then another main difference also would be the length of the questions and the complexity and the real scenarios that have been brought into the situation. Earlier, I mean, into the exam. Earlier exam, I noticed that it's very obvious to pick the answer. But with the new credentialing exam, considering also it's quite lengthy, and the changes or the differences of the answers are really subtle. So you really, really need to squint your eyes, squint your mind in order to recognize the difference, as many coaches said. So I would, if I'm to summarize in one sentence, I would say, as ICF changed the terminology to ICF credentialing exam, they definitely also changed the standard to a much, much higher level. I would say it became 3 times more complex and challenging in how I see it, since I have been very thoroughly engaged in this process as, of course, a coach education provider and working very close with ICF and also as an assessor. Over to you, Lux.
Thank you, Fernando. Yeah, the current exam, I have taken the previous exam, and the current exam is much, much, much more challenging. So be prepared. Right. So as we are being mindful of our time, I would like to now address with our coaches if you have any final best advice to the candidates of who are preparing for their ICF credentialing exam. What would you say? Ross?
So any final advice? What I would say is, to anyone sitting that exam, the fact that you're in that room taking that exam demonstrates that you've got what it takes to pass. So just believe in yourself, and good luck. I would also say that just go with your intuition as well. When you read a question, try not to think too much into it, get sucked into too much of the detail. Just really pay attention to the words, but go with your intuition. Let your gut lead the way as well and show you the answers. And finally, as well, the thing that worked for me that I mentioned before was the best answer is usually one that has the client at the center of it, and the worst is the one that has the coach as the center of it. I wouldn't say that's like the rule for every single question, but in the majority of cases, that really helped me, that really served me.
Thank you, Ross. Arwan?
Yes, absolutely. I would say if you look at it not just as an exam, but as like a validation to the fact that you are there. I think it really changes the way you approach the whole exam. Intuition, what Ross said, really trust your gut. In my experience, the first answer that you come up with is usually the right answer. When you start thinking, that's when you get a bit diverted. At least that's what I realized during doing the mock exam as well. And you can test this out when you do the mock exam. And yeah, I guess just enjoy the process and trust that it will all work out at the end, and you will get a congratulations email. Visualize it and it will happen. That it's going to be there. So best of luck, and I'm sure you're all going to be so amazing.
Thank you, everyone. Louisa?
I would definitely agree with what Arwan and Ross already shared. What I would add to that is it's so important to have a support system in place and people who you can rely on, who you can talk about the exam with, ask any questions that you may have. And the second part of that I would say, adding to what was already shared, is this knowing that this is natural for you. The fact that the experience that you've had so far and that you're here taking this exam shows you that you can pass, that you have the ability to pass. And so I find that confidence is one of the biggest things that can help you, of course, alongside the preparation and the experience that you have. That knowing can really be of huge support to you along the way.
Thank you, Louisa. Catherine, over to you.
I think just, to just add on to what everybody has said, I think it's just to go, trust your instincts, just be confident. 2 weeks ago, I was speaking to somebody who was taking the exam for the third time. She had failed 2 previous times. And, one of the things she said is even the score she got the second time she took the exam was lower than the first, because then when you're nervous, overthinking, you actually then you will tend to, mix yourself up. So don't overthink, just trust yourself, be confident in the process as you approach the questions. I mean, a lot of us, you're an experienced coach, just trust yourself. And, like Ross says, as you think about the client, you're focusing on the client. Some of it just comes naturally. You're able to clearly see where the red flag is in the wrong answer, and you're clearly able to see where the right answer lies. So just trust yourself, go with confidence, and don't overthink the process as you go through it. And all the best of luck to all of you as you do it.
Thank you, Catherine. To add to what our panelist has shared, also as part of the team who created the ICF Credentialing mock exam at Ignite Global, I would like to add this insight, coaches. You really need to think like a coach on the spot rather than a candidate, because the point of having this exam is to see your competency level and also your fluency in your core competencies and also your ethical guidelines. So really get familiar with your learning material, and also ICF require you to work with a mentor coach for a reason. So work with your mentor and clarify your questions before you participate in the exam, and clarify. And as all of our panelists said, you will know when you're ready, but then you don't just become ready. You need to actively get yourself ready to participate in the exam. So one of the ways that you can do it is to work with a mentor coach who is experienced, who is fluent in knowing what they are offering you, especially having the understanding of how the exam structure works. So have those things in mind, and also once again, it's very important that you fully, thoroughly understand the competencies, all the 8 competencies. We have a question here about if you pass the practice, no, we have already answered the question, so that's fine. All right, so Fernando, I would like to hand it over to you at this point.
All right, Lux, thank you. I'd like to really thank all the coaches, our panelists, for sharing their experiences, ideas, and also great tips. And also, Lux, thank you very much for bringing these professionals together and supporting our community. So, coaches, I would like to share with you the link for submitting your request for the CCE certification. Here we go. Access it through the chat room and then submit if you would like to receive the CCE. And this is, of course, complimentary. And also, I would like to, if you have been with Ignite community, you usually, I'm going to answer a few questions, coaches, before we go. And I thought I will share with you just a quick decision I made while I'm here, seeing that all of you are very, very interested in being here and very committed to your professional development. At the moment, I'm creating, for our programs particularly, I'm creating in-depth exploration of ICF core competency. The reason is, as you are aware now, since ICF introduced the new 8 competencies model, I see now it has stabilized. And it's a good time for us to create some awareness around it. So recently I created 12 hours of exploration on ICF core competency, the new core competencies. So I decided I will give all of you access to these 12 hours of program for absolutely free of charge, so that you are able to gain a bit of a deeper understanding of core competency from the mastery perspective, considering that I have been through this journey for quite some time, seeing how ICF evolved, seeing how ICF core competency evolved. And so I bring in my practical experiences, not just only as a coach educator, but also as an experienced professional coach, working with individuals and organizations, discussing really the practical elements. So expect within the next 2 weeks to receive this email, and also accumulate 12 hours of absolutely complimentary CCEs. If you have been with Ignite Global, you know that we love giving, we love co-creating with our community. So that's one thing. And another thing that I would like to also, I think, looks a question that came up here. Has the difficulty level gone up with the reduction of the number of questions in August? There's a question, and looks, you have been very closely communicating with ICF in the past few weeks with this change that is happening. Do you have any insights you would like to add here, looks?
Fernando, yes, thank you for the question. When I've been communicating, they did not mention anything about the changes made to the questions as such. They only mentioned that it's just a reduced number of questions. However, coaches, I'm in communication with them, and we will be receiving a link to take the test exam for coach education providers. ICF is working on that, and as soon as we receive that resources, the coach education providers will be able to take the exam, and we will be able to update you. Unfortunately, Fernando, I'm not able to give an intelligent answer to that question because I'm not fully aware, as I haven't taken the exam, and I also haven't received a prominent sufficient information from them.
So if we are to share what we know as an ICF education provider, is that the email clearly specified the communication that Lux had been engaged in with ICF just directly, clearly indicated that the changes are minor. They're not making a large difference. Like, we would like to be responsible for what we say. So generally, they are not making a large change to the structure, except for those minor things that were mentioned. At the same time, now, since you are in our community, as soon as we have this information, expect an email to come through so that you know if the complexity of the questions have changed. And then there was also another question. What do you think about reading the answers first? Some people say they use this strategy. So I think this is something very biased. I would say try it out for yourself, because we all as adults have different learning styles, different test taking styles. So I don't think have any opinion on that. It's an interesting thought. So I would say while you're taking different tests, try them out and see whether they serve. So I would recommend something like this. What I know is there are some free tests available for practice. And at Ignite Global, we have a test. It's not free of charge, which you also can try if you would like, which is what many of the coaches have been talking about. Now, I would recommend take some questions in this interesting way of checking out the answers first and then looking at the questions and see whether that serve you better or the other way around, the traditional way, read the question and the answer. So you'll be able to find your own answer there, I believe. And then apart from that, there's another interesting technical question, which I'm not sure if you have the right answer to, but I think it's quite self-explanatory. If you do not press submit in the end and time runs out, in case you review answers for too long, have internet issues, etc., do the answers get submitted somehow automatically? I'm unsure. Looks, do you have any technical insight to this?
I don't have, Fernando, but I mean, this is not something I know for sure, but I don't think that it's going to be automatically submitted because the technicality itself is quite strict. But unfortunately, I'm not able to provide a comprehensive answer to that.
All right. In that case, looks, let's support our community by directly reaching out to ICF, since you are anyway talking to ICF on a regular basis. Let's ask this question. So coaches, we will pragmatically answer this question with the ICF confirmation. So within the next, as soon as, let's say like this. So Lux will reach out to ICF within the next day or two. And then as soon as ICF has replied to us, we will send you an email and confirm the answer to this. And before we conclude, some of you were interested in asking about Ignite, the credentialing mock exam. I would like to quickly share a few insights around that. It's a paid exam, it's available, and we deliver it professionally. If you notice some of the free tests, you will notice that most of these tests basically use some free tools that are available like Google Forms or something like that. But you will notice that Ignite test is professionally done, very, very closer to ICF structure in technicality and the platform structure itself. And we have invested significantly on this exam, not just only time, but also technicality, structure, and so on. Coaches, I would like to ask our panelists quickly before you move forward, if you compare the Ignite test and then ICF exam, what are some of your insights? Arwan, would you like to start?
Yes, absolutely. So there's the familiarity of having to go through the exam is already there. So it's very similar in terms of how the questions are as well. I actually told you I found the questions so complex to understand. And when I was doing the mock exam, and I was like, why is it so hard? And actually, that's how it was. So it really prepared me in a way. The way the exam is structured, the way the clock that's working, that gives you an indication of how much time you have left on the exam, as well as just being able to get the answers right away and being able to see where you went right and went wrong, and especially the explanation that accompanied. So I feel like that prepares you to go into ICF and feel that it is the same almost.
Thank you, Arwan. Louisa?
Yes, I also found it the same. It was very, very similar, and doing the practice exam made me feel so at ease when I went to sit the actual exam, because I felt so familiar with the structure, with the timing, with how the questions were laid out, picking the best and worst answer. So I would definitely say that it was very, very similar in terms of how it was structured and the experience I had with them.
Thank you, Louisa. Ross?
So yeah, I agree. The way that both of these exams are structured is very similar. And the thing that I like about them both is that when you have all the answers there in front of you, the 4 options to choose from, you can drag and drop them to position them into like top answer is the best answer, lowest answer is the worst answer. So when you're reading through them, if one answer really jumps at you as the best answer, you can drag that to the top position. Or if one is the worst, you can drag that to the bottom. And as you're not allowed to take notes or write anything down, that's a really easy and helpful way of actually getting organized as you go through the exam. So both on the Ignite exam and the ICF, it had that feature for you to use.
Thanks, Ross. Catherine?
I think I agree with what everybody says. It actually is very similar. Number of questions, the time you have, even the timing for the break, the way you answer the questions. And I actually think even the content of the exam, while the questions are not identical, but it helps you think through, it makes it easier for you as you think through the questions when doing the actual exam. So for me, I'd say in terms of the similarity and the ease in doing the ICF exam when you've done the Ignite exam, I think it's really helpful.
Thank you, coaches. Now just to give you, coaches, a little bit of behind the curtains, we have been challenged by many exam takers, many our credential mock exam takers, by saying that our exam is too difficult. I had to talk to some of, because they're our clients, right? So they have taken our exam. And then next day we received this long email saying refund. This exam is very difficult, and I took some of the free exams. I got full marks. It was very easy. I think you got it wrong in this logic, and so on. So when this happens, sometimes I meet with them just to understand their perspective. So I think once they go to the exam, they realize, oh, okay, this is the reason why Ignite exam. So it's a real experience, coaches. That's why it is a paid exam. It's exactly the same fee as ICF, and it's exactly the same technicalities and the structure. We have a team who is maintaining this exam behind the curtains, and it's a serious learning exam, learning experience. Yeah, so it's available to Ignite Global trainees or the coaches who are in our programs if you're part of our credential bundle program. If not, it is available at a cost which you can access through igniteglobal360.com. Feel free to have a look. All right, so with all that, then I would like to thank our panelists one more time for being here, spending your valuable time, being very generous, sharing your insights with our community. Truly appreciate, coaches. Once again, Ross, Arwan, Louisa, Catherine, thank you for accepting my invitation and being here. Heartfelt thanks to all of you for being so generous. And Lux, once again, thank you for putting so much of efforts, bringing us together and creating these learning and developmental opportunities so that we all can go out there and serve our clients best with the highest credibility, with a prestigious accreditation and a credential. And also those coaches who are joining, thank you for being part of Ignite Global community. You are our wealth. And most importantly, it is an honor to co-create with all of you and to be able to share opportunities for our development, because what we do is noble. Like Lux mentioned at the beginning, we might not necessarily know our impact when we are sitting with the client, just one aha moment, or at the end of the coaching session, we feel satisfied. But I think it goes beyond, because every little, those developmental movements, reflective conversations that are happening are going to create a massive domino effect, creating ripples of positivity in the world. So you are a change maker. You don't need to be a celebrity. Your name doesn't need to be written in stone. But trust me, every coaching conversation that you create is making a ripple into the future. If you're aware of butterfly effect, you know exactly what I mean. So know that you're part of healing our mother beautiful planet Earth. So with that, I would like to thank all of you for being here. Look forward to delivering a monthly webinar as you have been doing, and look forward to creating more value for you, coaches. So expect an email with your CCE certificate, and I hope you will also enjoy the 12 hours of core competency training that we have, which is available to you for free of charge, and also with the additional 12 CCEs. All right, coaches, look forward to seeing you again. And I wish all of you all the best, especially in acing ICF Credential Exam. Bye for now.